We don't snatch purses, we snatch bass players. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Dr. Funk live podcast. Thank you guys so much for subscribing on YouTube and Spotify and checking us out on Facebook Live as well as Apple Music. Today we have an amazing guest. It's going to be Tal Wilkenfeld. We're going to be talking with her in her introductions. You guys should already know her. If not, that's on you, but we're going to give you an introduction. What's going on, Tanya? What's going on, Canada, Germany, already in the house? And it's late night over there. Appreciate you guys. Tal has worked with Prince, as some of you guys know from the latest project of Welcome to America, but she's worked with Jeff Beck, Herbie Hancock, a slew of legends that were honored to work with her. So you got to look at it that way. What's going on, Kimberly, Veronica? Great to see you guys, and as well as Tal's fans are joining us as well, which she's got a lot of, and I appreciate it. And just that people are hip to great musicians like her. I saw her maybe around 9 or 10 years ago at the Key Club, which is defunct in LA, at a bass event, and she blew me away. And that night, you had Larry Graham playing. I think he was getting a Legend Award. You had Victor Wooten, Verdine White, but my attention was on Tal. And there is footage from that night because Prince's people were there recording a documentary for Larry. So that should be very, very interesting on that front, that there's other stuff in the vault, not just tracks that she's on. I've been so looking forward to having her on for a long time. A lot of you guys didn't know about stuff, so I wanted to wait until after this project came out to have her on, instead of like when I really wanted her on, which was a few years ago. So I just really, really love talented musicians, and she is so freaking amazing. And I don't want to waste any more time. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Tal Wilkenfeld.
What's up?
How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. And I have been trying and wanting you on for a long time.
Yeah, it's been a minute that we've been aware of each other.
Yes. And here it is. I'm just going to go with stuff, and we're going to get to everything that you've done, which is a lot, and how you did things. But for the Prince fans, here it was, as I believe in 2010, he drops a track called Hot Summer. And no one knows, because it's just like when he'd send me photos, he didn't tell me who the players were on the album. So here it is, that track comes out, and no one is exactly knowing it's you because it's not put out on the post. How, like, am I right about that?
I mean, I wasn't paying any attention as to what was happening publicly, so I don't know.
But you were just like, hey, the track is out. Awesome.
Well, it wasn't really like out. I think he like put it on like a radio show once, and that was it. It wasn't like an official release. So
with the Prince fans, they were probably grabbing it and sharing it and putting it on their pages.
Okay.
Although
I didn't know if like anyone had heard it or like what happened.
Yeah, it was very much commented on my site the day that it came out. But again, like, we didn't know the players. And then that's the track that first comes out that you did. I don't think it's the first track that you recorded with him, though, right?
No, I mean, we kind of recorded most of the stuff like in one fell swoop. So I don't remember the exact order, but we recorded before Chris Coleman came into the picture. Like, we did some stuff with John Blackwell in 2009. So
craziness.
Yeah.
Two very talented drummers. John, we miss you, buddy. Chris, I saw your Instagram live with him, so that was quite impressive. And then the story that you were sharing about Hot Summer, like, how did that come to be on those things? And then how he wanted you to play, or that little hand clap thing? What was the story behind that?
It was more like he never really told me what to play, but for some reason, like, he had these certain specific things that he wanted Chris to do. Although he was pretty open with Chris too. Like, he kind of let us both do our thing. But on Hot Summer, he just sung this bongo part to Chris, and he's like, I want you to play this with drumsticks, like, and I started laughing. It was kind of like a bit of a joke, like a musical joke, because it's so like happy, like.
Now you know every time that song's gonna come on, I'm gonna hear that part. I'm gonna think of you doing that and to explain it to Chris. Oh my God, that's so funny. It actually makes the song even more enjoyable. Like it's just one of those.
It's a cheery song. It's like no doubt, like you can't help but like smile and laugh when that song plays.
Right. Bongos with Six. And by the way, I didn't mention this earlier. If you want to see everyone's comments yourself, Tal, on Facebook and YouTube, there's a comments thing to your right. At least it should show. Although mirrored, maybe it's showing to your left, but it's all the way above it to it. If not, I'm going to
Hugh Hefner. What's up, Hugh Hefner?
See, there you go.
Is it Hugh Hefner? We will never know.
Yeah, I told him we were on musician time. He's like, "Hurry up, Tal's amazing. I can't wait to see her." So he was like, "You and me both, my man."
Oh, this is a pretty cool app. Like it's showing like if it's coming from Facebook or YouTube.
Yeah, we're like everywhere. And of course, like people will see the comments and they're watching the show on the playback. They're like interacting with the other comments. I'll get notifications on it. I'll be like laughing. But yeah. And then not only that, so you have Hot Summer come out. Then a few years later on Third Eye Tunes and through YouTube, they put out same page, different book, but the same thing that not a lot.
I didn't even know. I only heard about this a couple days ago.
Right. Yeah, like it was put out in 2013, and we in 2011 during the forum run, they did an instrumental of it out the Foundation Room at the House of Blues.
Like so, they performed that live.
Yeah, that was the first time, and then he started adding it to his set list in 2013 with the band he had at that time. But still, it's just like to know that these things are going on and now see the credits of it, you know, and look. A lot of the times, and what I love about this album, and especially with your bass playing, is a lot of times what Prince does, especially with the bass, is he puts it underneath the mix. And yours is so clear and so vibrant on it that we can hear you playing. I'm sure a lot of bass players are like, man, he put me so low in the mix, but yours is higher. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but I'm sure there's a lot of bass players like, dang it. But I love your bass playing on this album.
Thank you.
So amazing. And so like, you're feeling that thump and everything else going on.
I mean, he mixed his own bass loud in the mix.
Right? He'll do that, and then he'll put down other stuff. So, you know, Brazil in the house, seeing some of these comments.
I mean, like it's a pretty stripped down record, so
yeah,
you know, it's hard to put something low in the mix when there's so little there. You know, we recorded it as a trio, and so like basically. Me on bass, him on guitar, and Chris on drums. Like he wasn't singing or anything. So I'm sure that got stuck in his head when it came time to mix. And it's like, well, these are the fundamentals of the record. Right. And also, like when he pitched this idea to me, like he basically said like he wants to make a trio with me, and like he was referencing, you know, Hendrix and. He also the reason he called me in the first place in 2008 was because he was saying that him and Larry Graham were watching these videos of me on YouTube with Jeff Beck. So he was watching that, which is, you know, primarily a guitar trio as well. And so it was that and Hendrix. And then he was like, well, find me a drummer. I want us to, you know, like you pick the drummer. And so I went on this like quest auditioning drummers and not telling them what they were auditioning for. I just said like, let's jam.
That is so cool. Like when he first reached out to you, did you believe it was him? Because a lot of people are like, how did he reach out? Through YouTube or through through a manager at that time?
No, that would be hilarious if he reached out on YouTube. I don't think I had a YouTube account. Blackwell hit me up and said that he was looking for my number, and so I said that he could pass it on, and then he called me.
Okay.
But I don't remember how I met John. Like, I don't, because I was meeting so many people so fast at that time, that I don't remember how that happened.
It'll hit you. It's just one of those things that things are coming at you and it's all a blur. Can totally understand that for sure. Now, to jump around because someone's asking this question, when you finally heard the finished product of Welcome to America, what was your initial reaction?
Well, just so everyone knows, like, we heard the finished product in 2010, because once we recorded it all, he flew us out to have some listening parties. So there were like 2 listening parties, like 2 full trips dedicated to listening and appreciating the album and celebrating. So it was so close to the recording that it just felt natural. It wasn't like a surprise. I was amazed at his talent because I was hearing these lyrics for the first time and I was knocked out, and especially moved by the subject matters and the way that he was expressing himself about such important issues. And I was very vocal about how impressed I was and how moved I was by his lyrics. And he enjoyed, he was happy. Because I mean, our friendship started in 2008. Like when he called me up, like the first few times we hung out, it was just like I would show up and like there's a limo waiting and we'd be just driving around for hours, like listening to music. And he'd be asking, so what do you think of this? And what do you think of this bass player? And what do you think about what they did here? And what would you do there? And did you like this song? And what do you think of this lyric? And those like just all these questions. And so I was kind of used to that dynamic of like being very open about what I thought about, certain aspects of music or, lyrics. So yeah, I was very vocal about it. Like, well, especially on Welcome to America, like that lyric just slayed me.
Yeah, for sure on that. And these listening parties, were they at Paisley Park or did he like rent out a club or?
No, they were at Paisley.
Okay, just making sure because sometimes you do it at Paisley and sometimes you rent out clubs. But yeah, Paisley Park, it's different on that sound system for sure, especially in the studio.
Yeah.
For sure on that one. Now, for people who don't know your story, and I hope that you guys do your research on Tal, like how did you want to become a bass player? I know the story, but for these other people that don't know and for future musicians that are watching that have an interest in it.
I started as a guitar player, and I got into guitar because I was a very competitive long distance runner, and yet I didn't really train much. But I did this really long, it's a 14-kilometer race in Sydney, Australia, and it's called the City to Surf. And I was like, I had my mind set on beating this one girl that was like the best out of all the schools. And so I didn't like stretch and warm up or anything. And I ran this race and I beat her. And I was so excited that I totally forgot to like warm down. And I just went and like got a hot dog, like just was acting like a kid. I mean, I was, 13 or I guess maybe I just turned 14. And then I hurt my back, like as a result. I think because like everything just like cramped up afterwards. And then so I couldn't like really run and for a while, like a few weeks, which is a while for a kid, I guess. And then I was just walking past this classroom and there was a guitar hanging on the wall. And something told me that I needed to pick it up. I don't know why. Because I'd never seen someone like play a guitar. Like there was no like context. But I picked it up and like I played a chord and I immediately like started crying. Like not like boo-hoo, but just like tears rolling down my face. I was like so moved by music in that moment. And I just probably played a D chord or something like super simple. I don't know. But from that moment on, I was like dedicated to music. And within a couple years, I'd made this decision to move to America. I got a scholarship at a music school, although I was a terrible student, so I didn't last as a student. But that kind of brought me to America. And then, welcome to America. And then I once again went from practicing from half an hour a day, which was my limit. Like my parents were like, you can only practice half an hour a day. You got to do your schoolwork. So as soon as I moved to America, I started like playing for like 5 hours a day. This is becoming like a habit. And I hurt myself again.
Oh no.
And so then I had to take a break, and it was like, okay, when I come back to music, I'm gonna be a bass player. Like, because people had been like seeing me like play bass lines on guitar, and like I was into like groove stuff. I wasn't like super like I was a soloist because I loved improvising already, but I just loved grooving, and I love the drums, and I love the bass, and like it's like, okay, I definitely need to play bass. I'm a bass player. And I still play guitar because I still write songs on guitar, and I sing, and I play little keyboards, and I love playing drums. So I kind of play all the instruments, but bass became my focus.
You do it all. And like if people are checking out your credits, it'll say produced, arranged, composed, written, and all this stuff. So it's just amazing. And when you're talking about playing for 5 hours, I kind of feel like it's how people play video games. They'll think it's only been an hour. They'll go use the restroom and they'll look at the clock, and it's like they started at 10 p.m. at night. Now it's like 6 in the morning, and they're like, where the hell did the time go? So probably for you, that's like your video game. It's like in a different world in different time.
Yeah. And I was just, I was in a hurry. Like, I was just like, I got no time to waste. I just want to I want to study.
Right. Now,
how does some comments just like pop up? Do you like?
I'm doing that.
This is so cool. I'm learning. I'm learning.
So, and then someone like, I'm going to get to that question, but I want to ask this first. Well, I'm just going to go into it just so that it's going to be interactive. Keely's asking, who are some of your biggest bass influences?
Well, my biggest bass influences are actually musicians that don't play bass. Because I always wanted to expand my vocabulary, like past what, any particular bass player would play. Like I didn't want to sound like someone that was already doing what they were doing. I wanted to develop my own voice. Mm-hmm. And so I would purposefully like imitate a Wayne Shorter solo or Aretha Franklin vocal. And I would, try to do that on bass. So I guess I don't have a direct answer to that question because like all my favorite musicians across all instruments have influenced my bass playing.
Mm-hmm. And is this like true? Like I read it, like Jeff Beck sought you out, right? After seeing you play or whatnot. Am I correct in that?
No, that Prince and Herbie did see me play with Jeff Beck. I auditioned for Jeff. And sent him tapes of me playing with the Allman Brothers, which is like one of the first times I did on stage, and a solo record that I made in New York.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Impressive on that still. And Cobra is asking, I'll put this up, what musician band influenced the riff on Hard to Be Alone?
I don't know. I don't know that a particular musician or band influenced that. I mean, I'm influenced, but I mean, all my influences are in all my songs I'm playing, but I'm not necessarily thinking, I want this to sound like so-and-so. It's just kind of like an amalgamation of all things.
Right. Now, when it comes to back to Welcome to America on same page, different book, how did that kind of like flow in the studio with was he like how he was trying to tell Chris with the bongos and everything? Was there anything of what he wanted you to play, or did it just come along organically?
Well, for all of the songs, there was no rehearsal and close to no talking about the song in advance. It was okay, so let's go, G to E minor to D, and then we'll loop that for a while, and then I'll cue you for the chorus, and then we'll go to B here, and then we might go to a bridge at some point. Just follow me. We'll figure it out. Okay, roll the tape. And then we'd record. And like that's how every song went down, except for maybe one. Stand Up and Be Strong, because I remember like the vocalists were like rehearsing that song. But for Same Page Different Book, he just told us, well, let's just jam on these chords, and we jammed on them. And then when it came to, that space, he just pointed to me like right before it happened, like fill. And so I just I didn't know it was coming at all, like that there would be any fills. And that happened. And then, the second time round, he did the same thing, and I was surprised. And then the third time. And so by the time, like the fourth time it happened, I was giggling so hard that I didn't play anything. I was just laughing. And that's why there's that space the fourth time it happens. And then the fifth time I went back and I did a fill again. But yeah, he just left it. He left everything as is. He didn't want to punch in anything, like change anything. Everything was as we played it live.
That's interesting. And would there be times where he was trying to make you laugh? I know that you did that on your own, but was there times like he was trying to like mess with you a little bit in the studio, or other times? I'm just curious.
Like what do you mean by that?
Like if he's trying to like be more playful with you to kind of like break your concentration or do other things while playing. I know that he can be a little bit of a prankster.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think that he authentically wanted us to be sitting on the edge of our seats because he believed that he'd get the best performances out of us. And he chose musicians that could handle that. Like, I have a background in jazz and rock and funk, so especially with jazz, it's like you learn to be put on the spot and make decisions instantly with confidence. And that's kind of what, he put us in a position where you had no choice but to do that and to not doubt yourself because you didn't get a second chance. I don't think he was trying to prank me. I'm sure that like he would have laughed if I'd have fallen on my face and not done but I didn't. So,
right.
Laughed as in laughed with me because I was laughing, as I said, by the fourth time. Like I thought it was hilarious. Just hilarious that he wanted his song to be filled with bass fills. I thought that was funny, because I can't reference another song where he's like having bass. It just seemed odd and hilarious.
Different for sure. During your downtime, what would you guys do? Would you play table tennis, or would there be other things that he would do when you guys were waiting for stuff to either be mixed or be done? What would you guys do during that time?
We were never waiting. We just get in and get out. There were meals, and then very long discussions. Like we have a lot of long one-on-one discussions about stuff. But I think that's like, it depends on your personality, like if you're into playing basketball, then I'm sure he's going to take the spare time to like play basketball with you or table tennis but with the kind of personality that I have, which is like, I love to dissect everything and talk about every angle of every subject. Like that's just kind of part of me. And so we were a hilarious match that way. We would just go down the rabbit hole of any particular topic that we were interested in, whether it's, spirituality, which he was very focused on at the time, being a Jehovah's Witness. And, my background, I grew up Jewish, but I also, studied Buddhism and Vedanta, and I've read a lot of like different kinds of philosophy. And, we had a lot to talk about within that subject, and then talking about the music business and the struggles of that and the unfairness about certain things in the industry and what to look out for. And he kind of mentored me in that sense. Like he, one time sat me down for like 3 or 4 hours and, we went through all the reasons why I shouldn't sign this major label deal that was being offered to me. And he had no stake in it one way or another. I think he just genuinely cared about the people that he surrounded himself with.
for sure on that. And I know those discussions, like you go on, and then if you're bringing up stuff, he would get really excited when you start talking about music or other things. I can just imagine that, because being on the side of it to where I think we're only going to be talking for a half hour and then a few hours go by. It's kind of interesting. And you do go down the rabbit hole for sure.
Which I love. I absolutely love.
Yeah. Pierre Paul's like, were there any songs you remember recording that were not released on Welcome to America or were included in other Prince releases that we're not aware of to date?
Yeah, I mean, we recorded a lot. I mean, at least 30 songs. So I'm playing on 10 out of the 12 songs. So there's another 20 or so. Some were for Live though. And there was one song I like played a bass solo on. I don't remember playing a bass solo on, but yeah, there's quite a bit. I remember the bass solo one because I just remember laughing once again, like, wow, he really is trying to feature me here. Like, this is so sweet, and unexpected, you know?
Right. Someone's asking, because it was released, but again, without credits. They're asking if you played on the song Rich Friends by Prince.
I don't know. I'll check it out.
See, someone better hook her up with a link to that, but I'm not certain if that's her on that. He did not play when it came to warning people about those 360 deals. Yeah, that's for sure. He definitely wasn't a fan of the 360 deals. How different was, say, Jeff Beck and Herbie and Prince on how they worked with you and what they brought out of you? I'm sure, like, you brought so many different things to the table, being how talented you are, but how different were they in the different aspects? I'm just curious.
Well, I guess I'll start by saying that I had they weren't comparable situations.
Okay.
So, you know, I've been on Herbie's recordings. There's a few tracks that are out, but it was like a couple days in the studio. It wasn't like a full-on project dedicated to me and a drummer or something. Whereas like this Prince thing, like I spent at least 50 days with him, maybe more. Like, we spent a lot of time, and he was looking at it as like a project. And then Jeff Beck, I'm on a lot of his live things, but only one album, and that album was done in a different kind of way. Like, I overdubbed bass to like program drums, I think, and then weeks later, Vinny overdubbed to that. So it wasn't like done all in the studio, even though Jeff's done that plenty of times. I just haven't done that with Jeff. So, and then I've done a lot of live stuff with Jeff and Herbie, and I've only played live with Prince, you know, in his own home. So it's just not really comparable. I mean, if I can compare it to like other studio situations that I've been in, because I've obviously been in plenty of, you know, studio situations, I'll say Prince is one of the fastest working artists I've been in the studio with, which was extremely surprising to me, given that you'd naturally assume that that's what a jazz musician would want. Like, okay, come on, let's just do a take, because, you know, they're limited with funds, and also that's just how the music is made. It's improv music. You don't need to redo stuff. Typically, you'd assume that like someone that's making, you know, vocal music, that's popular music, would spend as much time as they need to, you know, if they have the resources. And I see that over and over and over again in so many studio sessions where it's like, let's redo that. Let's just do this verse like 50 times in a row. And it's like, can we just cut the track, guys? Like, but people don't want to record that way anymore. I recorded my album Love Remains that way, and I recorded my first album that way. Like, let's all get in the studio and let's do takes. Like, and I love that because you get a real authentic take on the song. Like, you're reacting to a full song in real time. So, but yeah, I was pleasantly surprised.
For sure. Yeah. And sometimes, that would be the jazz side of him that would come out. It's so interesting that you mentioned that because he did have, an extension of himself. He tried to do all these different types of music, but he did gravitate towards jazz and do these heavy projects. So it's just interesting that you even caught up on that and how, even though he had money, he had his own studio, it's like he wants to do it quick. And I feel sometimes it's like, there's other ideas in there, and if he doesn't get it out, he's going to miss that idea if he takes too much time on one thing.
Yeah, it's very inspiring.
Just craziness. And Cole was asking, didn't you record a rendition of Fives with Guthrie Govan and Lee Rotner at one point? If I butcher their names, I apologize.
Guthrie Govan and Lee Ridnour. Yes, I did. It's online. You can find it wherever you listen to music.
See? And I want to know this. Someone's asking, has Jeff driven you around in any of his awesome cars that he's built?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I basically lived at his house for about, I would say maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And his wife is the greatest cook, and she'd teach me how to make scones. And then Jeff would drive me down to the corner store, and I mean, it was fun. It was it's like hanging with family.
Right, for sure. And then I know that you said about Prince and limos. Did you drive around in his little black Cadillac listening to music or talking about stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. And he called out his car Miles Davis just because of how black it was. That's what he said. That's all I'm going to say on that. So no one try to come out for me for that. And of course, I'm sure there was. Jerry had this question. Was Prince disappointed when you told him you couldn't tour the album because you were already contracted?
Well,
I would be disappointed.
I mean, Chris saw his face and said he looked disappointed. Because, I mean, yeah. But, I mean, I was disappointed.
Right. And was there other times where it came up to where he contacted you to tour again, or was that kind of it for a bit?
Well, that was the last time, because there was a few times before that he tried to get us to do certain things, and it was always just tough because I was juggling 3 main gigs with Herbie Hancock and Jeff Beck and Prince, but there was also other, sessions that I was doing in LA, and what it's like to be a musician. You got to do something nearly every day to keep it going. So
totally.
And I'm, I place my word and loyalty above all else, because that's kind of all we have, especially in a business like this as freelancers. If you give someone your word, you can't. I don't want to back out of that. So it sucks when you can't do everything. It really does. And it's disappointing that we couldn't find a way to do this. But I guess that's just, he moves on fast. If something can't happen, like you're saying, whether it's in the studio or it's a touring act, it doesn't matter. It's all the same mentality. It's okay, we can't make this work. Well, let's make this work. Yeah.
And I wish more people were like you in the industry. They're like that you give them your word and you do it. Sometimes you're doing
things. Oh my God. I have had I had something really heartbreaking happen where I got booked on the biggest tour, as an artist. I got booked on this really big tour, and a musician. I'd booked a bunch of musicians for this tour, and a week before the tour, and everything was paid for, the hotels, the flights, and this person got a higher paying gig and bailed on me, and I could never imagine doing that to someone.
Yeah, it happens a lot. That's why I'm saying. You saying that your word and all this stuff, it goes far with me, because I've just seen it so many times with people. I wish more people were like that.
Yeah.
For sure. This is an interesting question, although I don't want to make the assumption since you didn't tour with him, it didn't happen. But someone's asking, were any outfits created for you at Paisley?
No.
See, that's why I figured if you were touring, for sure you would have had like an entire wardrobe. That's another thing you may have missed out on that. So, and I'm sure someone put this in, I totally agree with it. I'm sure Prince respected you for keeping your previous commitment. He may have been disappointed, but at least it wasn't like the other person where you bailed on him.
No, it was because after he asked me to tour, he still brought me back to like check out the album and have a listening party. And then I remember like going into this office area where he was sitting at his desk, and like this was unfortunately the last time I saw him, but he said, thank you so much. Like, I've been trying to get this sound out of me for so long, and thank you for helping to bring this out of me. Like, it was like the most gracious, sweet, respectful thing to say, especially since he knew that like we weren't touring anytime soon. And it was just, so he definitely was fine with it, you know?
For sure.
But of course it's something that like still haunts me, you know? Like, damn, like we had this project and like we made it from the ground floor up. Like it came from a phone call. Let's make a band. Let's make a trio. You find the drummer, and then like, and we didn't get to see it through. So this album coming out now is as close to closure and healing as I could get, honestly. And like the nice feedback from people also has helped, you know, because that was a big part of my life and nobody knew about it because I don't really talk about what I do unless it's like it's something that's coming out. I don't need to like go and guess what I did today. Like I keep everything like close until we're announcing it. So
right,
no one really knew I even worked with Prince. Like even the people closest to me were like, wait, you worked with Prince? And I'm like, yeah, like spent like 2 years with him.
Yeah. Like I was keeping tabs on you, and I had a feeling it was like that you didn't want to discuss it until things were fully out. That's why it's like for years I'm like, man, I can't wait for that Tal stuff to get released because I can't wait to talk to her about it. But
right,
that's where it comes down to. I definitely was keeping tabs on you and other stuff, and then I'm just so glad to see the light of day and for you to get the accolades and other things that you deserve, as a musician, and of course working with him. And someone asked this, when was the last, and you don't need to discuss this if you don't want to, they're just like, when was the last time that you like spoke with him?
Well, I mean, it was that lot when he thanked me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure on that. And is there anyone that you haven't played with yet that you would love to play with? I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to work with you, but is there anyone that's on your list?
Bob Dylan and Paul Simon have always been on that list.
Wow.
They're some of my favorites. And then in terms of like artists now that are kind of just like, I really love Billie Eilish. I think she's great. And there's a lot of artists, but I would say like the people that have been like the longest on my bucket list is Bob Dylan and Paul Simon.
That's pretty cool. Of course, for sure. Prince and Jeff Beck, two of the greatest guitarists, similarities, differences working with them. You kind of discussed that a little bit. There was obviously differences between Jeff and Prince, although I'm sure they both respected each other tremendously.
Well, that was what was funny, was like when I was working with Jeff, like he'd start playing Prince songs and like talking about how much he loved Prince. And then I'd have Prince, like, because I was working with them at the same time, then I'd Prince be like, I just love Jeff and like love watching you guys interact. Like they were like fanboying over each other. It was so cute.
That is so funny
to
hear. And it's like the tremendous amount of respect. And a lot of people wouldn't see that, whether it was on Jeff's side or on Prince's side, but it's kind of cool to hear about that, Oh yeah, for sure. I saw this because you did Mark Marone's podcast. Tal is a big fan of stand-up comedy. Ask her about that, please. Stand-up comedy, for sure. Who doesn't love stand-up comedy? And who doesn't love to laugh?
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, it was Prince passing away that inspired me to, or led me to comedy, because he passed, and Leonard Cohen, who was a friend and mentor, passed, and Tom Petty, and quite a lot of people that I loved and had personal relationships with passed away very quickly, and it was just like an overflow of grief. um, and so one of my friends called me up, and he was like, Tal, I think you need to just go out and have a laugh. And I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying home. He's like, no, wait, come out. And so I went out to the Comedy Store on Sunset Boulevard, and that was the start of me discovering comedy. And I became friends with so many comedians, and they got me through that time, because I was just like, even playing music was really tough for me. And this is after, spending years like, with my spiritual practice. And there's a lot about, death, and it's not, you come to terms with death as a positive thing. You're just moving into so, and I still was like, this was the first time I was like, wow, like dealing with that in my life. And comedy got me through it. All my friends in the comedy scene. And now it's like, I can't imagine life without stand-up comedy and without my friends in the comedy world. They just are such an important part of my life, and an important part of the way that I now write lyrics. Like it definitely added another dimension to my songwriting and just my general view of life.
Right. So many songs I've written wouldn't have been written without Jeffrey Ross, just playing on that. But he can be an inspiration for so many different things. But he's so funny. And even when it comes to movies, and I love comedy, going to comedy clubs and other stuff, I gravitate towards comedy because you want something that's going to uplift you, something that's going to make you laugh. We already have so much ridiculousness going on of doom and gloom around us. You need to have those comedic, lighthearted moments that just make you laugh and make you feel good.
Especially for me, because like, I am a very analytical, scientific kind of person. I've always been into like quantum physics and philosophy and this and that. Like, I love dissecting stuff. And, that was one of the, like I said, one of the reasons why Prince and I got along. But I didn't know at the time, but I needed something to balance me out. And that's what it was. That's what I needed. It's comedy.
For sure. And I'm sure you and Prince were having great discussions on quantum physics and Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
But I had to go there on it. I don't think this is happening, but someone wanted to know if there is any 2021 tour dates or anything going on. Like, what are you working on in the coming months?
Probably in 2022, I'd say. It's just, there's so many things that like are getting booked and canceled and booked and canceled. And so it's just, and there's no insurance really, because it's expected that things could cancel at any minute. So it's a big financial gamble, especially for artists actually for all artists, it's a huge financial gamble. So I'm just focusing on creating and writing music. I've written a lot of music. So hopefully I'll start to release that next year and then tour.
Right. See, I like that you're already thinking ahead of that and having to think, like, instead of scheduling the dates, you have to worry about canceling, because that's what's happening in Australia right now with their lockdowns. Is like, I'll have musician friends, they'll have gigs and they keep getting canceled due to these lockdowns. So it's you're thinking so far ahead of that, and like, things are opening up now, but let's chill. Let's wait till 2022. Someone's asking this: when Hit and Run Phase 2 came out in 2015, the 1,000 Light Years from Here vamp showed up at the end of the song Black Muse. Were you made aware of that? And did you hear it at the time?
No.
Okay. Just making sure. That's what I'm talking about.
there's some really Prince's fans are like super educated on it. Wow. That's gonna be my new goal is like if my fans can be half as educated as that. Hey, come on, Tal fans, step it up. What did I do in 2009 on April 23rd?
Love it. Because this is what I try to do is just what Prince did is I talk about other artists and other stuff because Prince didn't just want his fans listening to him. He wanted him to discover other people and other artists. So I continue to try to do that and want them to be expanded to where they know you, they know everyone. I will slam them on certain things in their head and they will not deal with some of the artists that I like. But I feel that you need to know just more than one particular artist. I love how enthusiastic they are and they'll be on top of it.
It's amazing. That's a true fan, you know? Like I just posted something yesterday, like reposted something that Robert Glasper posted. It's like, it doesn't matter how many followers you have on Instagram or Facebook. It's like, how many people are going to show up to your gig and like drive through some like shitty storm and like be standing in the front row and like buy your merch and like really like tell you their favorite track. Like those are your fans, you know?
Right. I was doing like a running gig in 2013, like talking about how certain artists had like 60 million followers. So I go, so when their album comes out next week, it's going to sell 60 million copies, right? That's exactly what you're saying. Is who are these people that are going to brave the storm that'll go to the show? There may be someone who follows you, but that doesn't mean that they're exactly going to support you and go to your gigs. So those things
do have some like really amazing fans like that do all of that. It is really touching to see. So I'm just kidding, guys.
Of course, they have to know that. On that, Kim's asking, are Prince fans different than the fans of other artists? You kind of just touch base on that, just that they know this stuff. But do you see any differences between, say, fans of yours and Prince's or Jeff's when it comes to you?
I'd say, judging from Prince's fans, they kind of got like the Grateful Dead has like a fan base like that, where it's like they know every version of every, and there's like, 100 versions of or more of each song. Like they know all of them and what year and where and who wasn't around and who had a cold and, but not all artists have that. Like, I'm trying to think. Like I feel like the artists that I work with all have that in different ways. Like it just depends on what the artist brings out in that fan. But yeah, I'm lucky to have worked with artists that have, fans that really pay attention.
For sure on that. And of course, you have your fans are like, can you please ask Tal if she plans to release a new LP prior to touring in 2022? Music?
I'm working on a lot of music. The thing that's hard to do is to get everyone safely in one room together recording, which is how I prefer to record, because, there's all this varying information that's coming out on, you don't really know. So I'm just, I'm gathering all the songs, and then when the time is right, then I'll get everyone in a room and we'll probably like blast out 50 songs, literally.
Right.
Yeah.
See, and varying information. That's why I only got my information from Jeffrey Ross.
Yeah.
That's the only way to go. You don't have to worry about it.
That's a great source.
And yes, and of course, speaking of someone, we have a mutual friend who worked on the Welcome to America box set, Matthew Bitton.
Yeah.
He did.
Beton,
exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I met him in the comedy world too. He's such a gem of a human. He's the one that first called me up, and he was like, he's on speakerphone. I was like, hey, what's up, man? Like, I thought he was like going to tell me about some like Dave Chappelle thing that was happening, like some hang. And he's like, hey, is this you? And then he starts playing Same Page, Different Book. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, I got some news for you.
See, so cool.
Yeah.
And everyone from Mr. Beton to yourself, everyone who's involved with this project should be really, really happy about how things are going and just the dedication that's been put into it and the appreciation, it seems that a lot of people are having, whether it's fans or critics alike, everyone seems to be blown away from this and taking a step back and digesting it all, which
which is
you have to do.
That's hard to do with an artist that we all love so much that's not here. It's like whenever a posthumous album comes out, it's like I have a tightening in my chest, like ready to hear it, like, oh, I'm scared. Is this like, what's this going to be? How much is the artist? How much is what happened after they got, like, I feel like fear. And it's like, I mean, I'm glad that the fans know that like Prince actually finished this when he was here in 2010. Like this wasn't like some aftermath thing that happened in recent years, you know, like that's big to know that, you know?
For sure. And there'll be all these things about why didn't he release it or whatnot. I do believe at that time, the lyrical content, people weren't ready for it. Things were a little bit happy and glorious. And then, of course, with you and Chris not being able to tour, that played into it as well. But we had discussions about the vault. And I love how there'll be some people that say stuff. He wanted this stuff to be released. And I'm glad that it is. Even posthumously, that you get, you know, the clutching of how it makes you feel. But I'm just thankful and grateful that people are able to become fans of you that may not have known of you, but because of this album, they're discovering you, you know?
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So someone's asking this, if the opportunity arose, would you consider an acting career in addition to your musical career? Like, because you have all this time on your hands.
Time in my hands, not on my hands.
There you go. See, you can, like, can we expect the acting career? Can we expect you to get on stage and maybe do a little bit some comedy? Or is that just not a stage that you want to be on?
It's not about want. It's about time, like you're saying. It's there's a lot to do and to still uncover within music, and just diving deeper and deeper and deeper into that craft. Like if I spread myself too thin, I don't want to be kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none. But you know, if there was some cameo that I was asked, like, you know, show up in this movie and do a song and say a few lines or something kind of simple, it's like, yeah, sure, like I can do that. You know, I've seen musicians do that, but like having a whole acting career, like, nah.
Right. Someone's asking a question. I'll do it. Like, see where it is on the charts. To me, it's debuting top 5, especially with him not being able to be here. It's not like you guys were able to go on Fallon or go on Colbert and perform it. I think that it's done really well, especially when you're seeing the artists that are in the top 5 right now, to Billy, to Olivia Rodrigo. I think it's quite impressive that it debuted where it debuted, albeit it may not be to where their sales are, but they have to understand, for a legendary act, this is his best-selling posthumous album and the first one of newly released material, not exactly stuff from decades ago. So I think that that's important, because people are asking about money from that, but I think it's its own reward of where it placed and the attention it's getting, more so than, you know, the monetary value.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, anything, sometimes when it's being created, it's already right there. It's been done. You've had, how do I put it? The value is already there, but for other people to experience it and feel it, that's where it comes from, in my opinion, at least. So, and someone's asking this before, and these are the last few questions before I let you go. Why did you stop playing guitar and switch to bass exclusively? Although I know you still play guitar, but that some people feel you went away from it.
It's kind of the same reason, the same answer as the acting thing. Like I find that I like to focus on one or two things at a time. And so it was bass. And then after, you know, a certain amount of time touring, playing bass with people, then my focus became singing and songwriting. So it's kind of like I I like to kind of portion things out and work them out in their little bubbles of time. But I use guitar to write, and I play guitar on my last album. I'm not trying to like solo and be like a lead guitarist or feature myself on the guitar. I use it more as like a songwriting tool. And I play drums too, but I haven't put drums I haven't played drums on my own album or anything like that, because I guess if I was gonna do that, I would do it for a musical reason, not for like a gimmicky reason. Like I can do this. It would be like, this is the best, kind of flavor for this song is my drumming on, and that hasn't come up authentically for me yet, where I'm like, I want to, and part of that is because I like to record as a full group to the point where, on my album Love Remains, it was recorded as a trio with Blake Mills on guitar and me on bass or acoustic guitar and voice, and then Jeremy Stacey on drums. And like on one song that Blake was trying to find a guitar part, and he couldn't find something that fit for the song Love Remains. And so then I was like, well, why don't you just play bass on this song? And so it's Blake Mills playing bass on my song Love Remains. So it's like I wasn't even trying to feature myself as a bass player on my record. I was trying to like just do things like authentic representations of the song in real time and whatever works best for the song. And he played a great bass line for that song, and a very unique bass line, especially coming from his primary instrument as guitar. Not that he's limited to one instrument, he can kind of play anything. But I really liked his take on it. So.
Right. Thank you for that. And although I'm sure I'm going to butcher this name too, why is the Sadowski bass your choice to play often?
You nailed that. You could be in a Roger Sadowski ad.
Fair enough. How people call your people, or your people call my people?
It was the only bass that I had for 5 years or something. So I played it on everything. It's on all the Jeff Beck stuff. It's on all the Prince stuff, on all the Herbie stuff. On basically everything I did was that bass until 2013. And that's when I started getting a few more instruments. I got my like 5-string with the high C. I had a 5-string with the low B. I got I found a P bass, which has become my primary axe pretty much, a harmony bass. So now I'm not like limiting myself to one instrument, but I actually enjoyed the challenge of being able to play everything on that one instrument. And it felt like, and still does, but especially at the time when I was playing it so often, like a living, breathing thing. And like every time I played the instrument, it started to sound better because I got so in tune with the intricacies of where everything was, and like just how to like finesse it to get the exact tone I wanted, the exact vibrato and this and that. And, every musician that I loved played that bass. Like Prince played that bass. Everyone, put their grease on it. And I never cleaned the frets. And it's like the greasier that bass got, like the better it sounded. Got it.
I'm sure on that. Oh.
These frets.
Speaking of which, there you go.
That's like, see all that grease? Every time I get a guitar tech, I'm like, please do not clean the fretboard. Whatever. And early on, like I remember doing this gig, and there was a new tech for one of the Jeff gigs, and they like cleaned the frets, and I was so sad. So now I'm like, every time there's a new tech on, that's the first thing I say: don't clean the frets.
You have to make sure of it. It's important, for sure. Someone's asking this question, although, and we're wrapping it up for people watching. That I'm sure if he didn't design clothes for you, they're wanting to know if he designed a bass for you or wanted to get you a bass or something. Just curious on that. Any equipment he was wanting to purchase for you?
Probably, but I I think he was very aware of how attached to my instrument I was, and like my pedals and my, I kind of had my own thing going. Even with clothes, like I was very much a t-shirt, baggy jeans girl at the time, and there wasn't too much that was gonna change that. It took a lot of effort for me to dress up at the time. Now I kind of, I've grown up, and it's just part of my life now. But when I was, 19, 20, 21, 22, I just, t-shirts and jeans and my Converse sneakers every day.
There you go. I could see like he was probably trying to get you into a dress and Converse boots, but glad we didn't. That's a good thing. Maybe we didn't see what he would have picked out for you.
No, because I remember like when the listening party thing happened, because the first time it happened, I didn't know we were doing a party. I just thought we were going to record more or something, like, because he didn't say why we were going to Paisley. Just like, hey, come by, which is how it always is. And then he's like, well, we're going to have a party. And I'm like, do I have to dress up? Do I have to change? So, and then everyone was like showing up in Grammy attire, and I probably just had like a nicer pair of jeans and t-shirt to put on.
See, he really liked you then if he was allowing you to wear jeans. That just says a lot. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So I could have you on for so long. There's so many questions, but we're going to save it because I would love in the future, I hope to have you on again.
Yeah.
Here anytime.
Thank you.
I appreciate you so much. Make sure you guys are watching on the replay. We're going to put the links where you can follow Tal and everything else that's going on with her. But I thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on the work on Welcome to America. And we're so looking forward to more things for you coming up in 2022.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And thanks for everyone that joined us live.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Tal. See you soon.
Bye.
Good night. Incredible, incredible, incredible is all I can say. She is so amazing. For you guys that do know her, for you guys that are finding out about her, make sure to look for her stuff, get her things. We're going to provide the links for that. Just an amazing guest. It's someone I've been looking forward to having on for a while. What we're going to do is I'm going to wrap this up. I will do a small after show for a little bit. We're going to wrap this up though. So check out the live, maybe around 15, 20 minutes. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in live on YouTube and Facebook Live. And for people watching the replay, thank you guys for listening on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere else. It is so appreciated. Thank you guys so much. Till next time, much love. Keep it funky.